The theft of dogs is quite sadly increasingly common in recent years, and I've had many a friend or acquaintance who has had a dog lost or stolen, or both, probably in that order. Because you can steal a dog even if it's just wandering around lost, because if there's any means of returning an item that you've found, you should take those steps. Because if you innocently find something but then form the intent to keep it, then you can be guilty of theft. Even if you didn't intentionally dishonestly appropriate it in the first place, you can dishonestly appropriate it later, which is one of the elements of theft. But anyway, in this story, it's a very interesting story, and there's a few more bits of trivia from our Alan Robertshaw on the art of law in the description below. That rhymes far too much. So check that video out afterwards. But in this story, Lady Gaga has been held not to be forced and obligated to pay a $500,000 reward on a no questions asked basis to return the stolen French bulldogs, because the woman who requested the payout of the reward was criminally charged with the violent incident in 2021. In a ruling on Monday, the judge dismissed a breach of contract lawsuit filed by Jennifer McBride, who pleaded no contest in December, which our Alan Robertshaw will explain we don't have in England and Wales, which is where there is so much evidence in a criminal case that they might as well not challenge it. We don't have that here. You are guilty or not guilty and you plead as such. If you plead guilty, you admit the crime. But anyway, she pleaded no contest in December to receiving stolen property in connection with the gunpoint robbery in which Lady Gaga's dog walker, Ryan Fisher, was shot and nearly killed. Quite sensibly, the judge came to the decision, as no doubt we would here, that a criminal like McBride could not profit from her participation in the crime. Judge goes on, the allegations in the complaint are directly related to wrongful conduct that plaintiff pleaded guilty to in the criminal proceedings, and under the circumstances, the plaintiff's successful pursuit of her current claims would allow her to benefit from her admitted wrongdoing. So this is a very standard, very embedded principle that in almost all circumstances, you cannot benefit from your wrongdoing. The only very slight exception, which is a very narrow technical exception given by Al on our Art of Law channel, is where the wrongdoing is not directly connected to the case. But I'll let him explain that one for you, so you've got to go and watch that video below. But I thought this is rather interesting because just recently I've seen some friends of mine who very sadly have lost a dog, had stolen, or a combination of the two. And like I said at the outset, you can lose something and it then gets stolen. That's a counterintuitive phrase, because if I'm walking along, let's say I have something to hand here, I've got a GoPro in my hand here. Let's say I'm walking along and this falls out of my pocket and there's something on it that could identify who I am, which there probably is, because you could look it up and I'll probably say who I am on one of these videos somewhere. You could probably quite easily find out who I am and where I am and say, hey, I've found your GoPro, which it actually fell out of my pocket in park the other day. I did circle back and find it, but hey, if somebody found it innocently, then they did not dishonestly appropriate it when they picked it up. They would have just picked it up and said, oh, look, a GoPro. But at that point, they should then think, I wonder if there's any way I can find out who this should go back to. And if they look at it and there's a memory card and there's images of me and me saying who I am and this is my channel, and it's quite obvious as to whom this belongs, if they then think, you know what, stuff it, I'm just going to keep it. It's at that point that they dishonestly appropriate it, because they've decided to keep it. So they have further appropriated it with dishonesty to keep it. And they formed the intention to permanently deprive me of it at that point. Even if when they first picked it up, they thought, I wonder who this belongs to. Let's try and find out and get it back to them. And later they think, actually, no, I'll just keep it. I don't like this guy, maybe. I'll just keep it. And if they keep it at that point, obviously it becomes theft at that point, because now they've satisfied those elements. So it can be lost innocently in the first place, found innocently, but then it can be stolen later. But interestingly, one of these such adverts, I'll call it, more like a billboard poster type thing that I've seen up, has offered, just like in this Lady Gaga case, a no questions asked reward. I think it was £500 as opposed to $500,000 in this case. I'm sure it was $500,000. $500,000 in the Gaga case. But nonetheless, 500 versus 500,000 matters not. It was a no questions asked reward. Now, as Al quite rightly pointed out, if anyone were to say, I won't prosecute you, I won't sue you, I won't do anything, that's not strictly technically allowed, because it wouldn't necessarily be your choice for, let's say, on behalf of the CPS, not to prosecute, depending on what the thing was. If it was a dog is one thing, and I know I've got many dog lovers watching. Make sure you check out the Floof's channel, because this video will probably have a follow-up on the Floof's channel to see what the Floof thinks about this. Credit to Al, because Al literally just texted me to say, really, this should be on the Floof's channel. So check out the Floof's channel as well. If it were instead not a Floof, but a child, and this were a serious case of kidnapping, and the person offering the reward said, we won't prosecute you, you won't be prosecuted for the kidnap of this child, just return the child and we'll give you the reward. That is strictly not permissible, because you cannot make the decision on behalf of the state's prosecutorial body. So I found that rather interesting. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you've come across any stray dogs. And as a trivia, dogs have got to have the address and the number of the owner on it. But you can check out more of those dog trivia and animal trivia type things on the Floof's channel. Make sure you check that out below. I hope you like this video. Check out Al's video on the art of law. Make sure you subscribe, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.